Hello, everybody. This is Noah and John, and we are with Urban Digs, and we are talking Manhattan. Johnny, we got a good one for you today. We got Daniella Schlisser from Brown Harris Stevens, 23-year industry veteran. I mean, you're like a top 10 agent over and over and over and over again. Deal maker, Johnny.
Thank you.
She is maker of
Rainmaker.
deals.
Yes.
Yeah, maker of deals is what we got over here. And she's here with us for 15, 20 minutes, and she's going to tell it like it is because I know Daniella, and that's what she does. She does not mess around. So, Daniella, thank you for coming on. First question incoming right now. I don't want to waste any time. Please let everyone know, in your eyes, what is the state of the current market? What is the temperature of the climate out there? Where are we? What do we need to know?
All right. Well, it's picking up. We've got good volume. If you follow, which I'm sure you do, weekly stats, Donna Olshan's weekly report, we're like super solid. We're at around 30 deals, 30 contracts signed, 28 this past week, 4 million and above, week after week, which is fabulous. We had, which was interesting, 10 of them were above 10 million. I believe it was last week. We haven't seen that, or 13. We haven't seen that. I forget the exact number. We've got to get back to that. But we haven't seen this kind of volume in a long time. It's great. I feel it in my business too. Yesterday, I got 3 accepted offers, 2 of them on properties that I've had on the market for months. So that's a shift without having adjusted the price. I adjusted the price since representing them, but I haven't recently adjusted the price. So there is definitely a pickup in volume in the market. I think, interest rates are softening. It's not significant. That doesn't hit mortgage numbers so significantly for a while, but it does a bit. And just that climate, I think, gives buyers confidence. But pricing hasn't yet increased. So there's opportunity for buyers to still buy well, and they are coming out of hiding. I think it's both just hibernation, exhaustion, and a climate that feels better to them. So that's opportunity for sellers because it's bringing them, a live audience again. And there's still opportunity for buyers because pricing hasn't yet increased, which is, of course, the next step. Once volume picks up and pricing is the next thing, but that hasn't happened yet. But
Wait,
there is absorption.
I just want to follow up because I think it's really interesting what you said. Now you're basically talking about the luxury market. You mentioned, right, 4 million and higher. And I'm curious. So you mentioned there's some properties that have been on the market for a while, and then buyers started coming in. And I'm curious, when they came in, did these buyers have any sort of presumptions in terms of what they were expecting to negotiate, or are they paying asking price, or what did that negotiation look like?
They were hopeful, but it didn't play out that way, and they all stepped in line. So yes, it's still, residually, it's still a climate in which buyers feel entitled to opportunity, but that opportunity is narrowing. So they'll start the conversation low, and it's our job to talk the sellers off their insulted ledge and say, don't worry about it. It's an offer. Let's keep talking and we'll get them up. And I've had that. I mean, one of the properties was a West Village new to the market property that flies off the shelf, but the other 2 were co-ops, which is the softest segment of the market. One of them, a co-op needing work, which is an even softer segment of the market. And I did very nicely and close to ask ultimately on both. And in both, to your point, in both the buyers came in significantly lower, but they came up.
Interesting. I would like to stay on this topic just for a little bit longer. It sounds like the market's starting to come back to wherever the sellers are, but I'm just curious, generally speaking, sell side mindset. I don't sense a lot of desperation. I don't sense a lot of panic, but I wanted to ask you that question. And I also wanted to ask you, like, in general, are sellers realistic these days, or are sellers just their expectations are a little on the high side?
I think there's both. I mean, there are realistic sellers. Those are the ones getting deals done. The unrealistic sellers who are either, living in pain over the fact that, understandably, that they're going to leave money on the table between what they bought for in, say, 15, 16 and what they can sell for today, and don't want to leave money on the table, so they're not doing deals. That exists. But then there are also sellers who are like, all right, I've tried this as long as I can. I've tried to hold out as long as I can. I need to stop paying carrying costs every month. I need to, move to Palm Beach, and all right, fine. Taking the hit that, that the cycle has given me. So there's both. But the deals are getting done with the sellers who are understanding the market. but that's always the case, really. This is just a tougher pill to swallow for them, but then in a, in a seller's market, but that's always the case. The deals aren't getting done, in a really strong seller's market. Yeah, they can dictate, but I haven't seen that in a long time.
Right.
Right.
And one of the things that we've been talking about, and it's been, brought up in the national media, is that the number of cash deals is at record highs. I'm curious, these buyers coming in, are we still on the cash front, or are you starting to see some of the financing creep back in?
Both. I'm seeing both. I mean, look, people have done very well in the stock market. And I think at this point, which explains a lot of the, availability of cash. Those who are pulling out of the stock market, who have done so well, amassed so much profit, that they want to now put it into real estate finally, because for a while it was, they're doing great and they don't really want to shift into the real estate market, which hasn't been giving them the same kind of return that stock market has. But now they've done so well and people want to live well when they've done well. So there's a lot, I think, of liquidation and available cash with which to buy. Interest rates, even though they're really not historically high, so to speak, they are, double what people loved seeing just a few years ago. So there is a lot of resistance to financing still when people can pay all cash. But there's also, there are also people who understand, these are not astronomical interest rates. I'm going to take a loan, save my cash. It also depends, how you have to structure a deal. Sometimes you have to structure it such that there's more money down, either to satisfy a lender or to satisfy a co-op. So sometimes you're directed by the, by the terms needed
Right.
for the deal to go through. But there's both.
Yeah.
I see financing and I see a lot of all cash.
There's just so much cash out there.
Yeah, there really is. And now we're seeing it. Yeah.
I mean, John, what's that stat? I think it's like 60% or something, 65%.
Yeah, I think it was higher. I think the record was higher than that, but it was just
I
an
think so
amazing
too.
amount. And Danielle, it's almost like that the adage with skirt heights are basically based on where the S&P is, right? When it's up, right, you get mini skirts. When everything's falling, the skirts drop down. It's almost the same sort of thing, like financing versus not financing. And you had a very interesting saying, which is that people like to live well when they feel like they're doing well.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge sort of intangible sort of feeling in this market. And I think it's starting to creep back. At least I hope it is creeping back.
I agree with you. And I think it's something people don't think about very often. And I teach new brokers, and, people stay very narrowly sometimes within the tangible lines and forget that this business is very emotional. And that's one of those pieces that, even if it doesn't feel necessarily opportune, or interest rates in this case don't feel, that advantageous, when people have done well, they want to live well. That's the first thing they want to do. They want to live well. Next, they want to drive well and travel well, but primarily they want to live well. And they're right. It is the most meaningful way, I think, to spend hard-earned money, is in your surroundings, in your home.
Yeah, we got to live well.
Yeah.
All right, Daniella. So you also mentioned earlier that you haven't seen a seller's market in a long time, and our data corroborates that statement. I think 21 and maybe early 22 was the last time we were in that sell side easy listing environment. That was a long time ago. So would you agree that this has been a low volume market pretty much since then, right?
Oh, since before then.
Right.
I think that was a small peak, if you recall. That was like
right,
half a year. That was at most. I don't even think it was a full 6 months. I think it was more
the
like
pandemic recovery, right? Because we forget, right? Because before that, 2017, 18, 19, I mean, going into the pandemic was a tough time, and then we had the pandemic recovery, and then we're just right back to the tough time.
Agreed.
Right. So that's so how do you keep your head in the game? How do you resist the temptation to just say, I'm leaving the business? Like, how do you keep it going, thrive, and grow in that environment?
I think, well, having done it for as long as I have, I've seen cycles. I think you just stay, you remember that you're talented, you're good at this, that in any market you have succeeded, you have done deals for clients on either side. And if things are slow for a certain period of time, we are in a cyclical business, it'll come back. And so you have to, and I think you have to do that in this business in general. You can't get stuck in a failure, a failure. And sometimes, a down cycle feels like an extended failure. you can't get stuck in that space because you carry that with you into every next deal you do. And then, it's like putting good money after bad, that saying, like, get out of that. So I think a lot of it is, some people do affirmations, whatever it takes you to stay in the right mental space where you remind yourself that you are good at this, you've been successful, and the cycle will roll in your favor because that's what cycles do. But also there's opportunity in every cycle and in every market. We can do deals in every market. We just have to advise well, we have to value well, we have to be smart. But I think you just stay, and there's opportunity also in a slow market that you can take advantage of to make yourself better.
So this is fascinating because so you're talking about the internal aspect of being a broker, which is completely revolves around mindset and really keeping that confidence. Because if you don't go into a transaction, if you're not meeting a client with a sense of purpose and confidence, it's not going to go well. And I'd like to shift a little bit because I'm curious on the external side. I mean, you've been doing it for 23 years, so clearly you're doing something right. So I'd love to know, like, how did you separate yourself from that sea of brokers? What is it that makes you special, and how do you sort of broadcast that to the masses to get business?
Well, thank you. And I think primarily you make it personal. When I started in the business, there was a training program at Corcoran. I started at Corcoran, and there was a training program there led by a gentleman named Mitchell Lawrence. And he gave me a book right when I was starting out called It's Not Business, It's Personal. And it was basically, this is personal. And it's something that I've carried with me and something I teach when I teach new brokers. You have to distinguish yourself, as you say. And the best way to do that is to get personal. Make sure that you are, you're listening to what people tell you about their lives personally. Make use of that, not in a, not in a utilitarian way, but in a warm, personal way. Remember somebody's kid's upcoming wedding, remember somebody's birthday. When you see something and it reminds you of a potential client or a past client or a current client, shoot them a text. Hey, saw this, reminded me of you. I think you'd enjoy it, or whatever. So I think getting personal, which I think many people resist doing because they think it's not professional. You can be personal professionally. And I think you have to, because otherwise, why will they stay with you? You have to give people a reason to stay with you when there are 100,000 brokers in New York or something. I don't even know what the exact number is, but it feels like 100,000. So you got to give them a reason. And part of that reason, so getting under their skin is one piece of that. And I think being an expert is equally meaningful and what keeps them with you. They have to feel it's their biggest asset for most people. Even when it's the uber wealthy, their real estate tends to be, other than their portfolio, their real estate is their biggest physical asset. And they're not going to trust you with it, whether it's to sell or to buy, if you don't seem smart. So you have to stay smart. And that is an investment of time. And it's an investment of money, and you have to make it. You have to read the paper every day. You have to read the trade publications as soon as they come out. You have to, schedule alerts for yourself in your listing system on StreetEasy to remember what's happening in everybody's building that you're trying to do business with, so that when you see them, you can say, hey, I saw, the 8th floor sold in your building. And, you have to be a source of information and wisdom for them, and they have to like you.
This is amazing stuff. So first of all, I'll add to that. You should join Macro Monday on UrbanDigs every Monday, because we talk about a lot of stuff that makes you a lot smart, because you are
excellent,
100% right. And I want to echo that point, because I feel like there's a misconception out there, and I'm not talking about within the industry. I'm talking about just consumers in general who I don't think they quite understand what the broker's role is. And I think the most important thing a broker can do really is exactly what you're talking about, which is make that personal connection, because you really establishing that trust is so paramount in order to actually get the transaction off the ground. I mean, pricing is its own thing. I mean, I could talk for hours about the misconceptions in pricing and how important pricing is, but that's really just the transaction itself. But that trust, that relationship is absolutely the kernel that everything kind of grows from. So I think I just want to echo that point, because I think it's an amazing point to make.
Thank you.
If they trust you, they'll listen to you. And if they listen to you, they'll make smarter, more informed, and expedited decisions. Right?
Agreed.
That's what it's all about. has
And
been
it's our
great.
responsibility. Sorry, I don't mean to, I
Yeah, go
feel
ahead.
very strongly that it's a broker's responsibility to make themselves or make ourselves people that our clients stay loyal to. I've heard a lot of brokers complain about client, disloyalty. That's on us. That it is
Yeah.
our job to make ourselves that person that they want to come to.
You know what?
Yeah.
Back in the day when I transacted in this business, oh my God, almost 20 years ago at this point, I learned very quickly there is no such thing as loyalty. There is no such thing as loyalty, and you have to earn.
Yes.
You got to earn their loyalty. But once you
Agreed.
get that loyalty, not only do you get it from them, but they're people, they're humans, and they have a social
Oh, yeah.
circle themselves, and they will talk. They talk to someone. Hey, oh, I got a broker. You got to go talk to this guy. He's the best,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, this has been great. This has been great. I still have one last question before to let you
Sure.
go. And I don't know if John has anything he wants to ask, but my last question is going to be is, there's a lot of agents. You said you teach. There's a lot of agents out there, young, old, been in the business for 1 year, 20 years, doesn't matter. And they're trying to up their game. They're trying
Mhm.
to up their game. So what tips or advice would you tell those agents that are trying to be more productive in what is a very challenging market out there?
Yeah. So I would say, all of that again, read the paper every day, whichever paper you like to read it every day. And it's so easy now. We can get everything summarized in our inbox and subscribe to stuff. Make yourself smart so that you can stand out. Even when you're new, you can stand out. You can go out for dinner. And it's funny, the thing I remember about being new is that it was actually my friends who signed up for me last because they knew I was new. Other people don't know you're new. So you've got a great opportunity to make yourself really smart and make a great impression. Go to open houses. When you're trying to get your business up to the next level, you have more time than you will when it is at that level. So do stuff with that time. Read everything, go to open houses, follow the market, make social engagements, go to places that you might otherwise not feel like going to. I always say, do stuff that you are going to enjoy, whether it brings you business or not, because otherwise you're just going to hate that you went. So, but find things. We all have things we enjoy doing. Go do it and go equipped with wisdom. If you know you're going to see somebody who lives at whatever, at 740 Park, make yourself smart about what's on the market before you go so that you can start reeling people in and you deliver that casually, like, hey, love your building, saw this, it's great. Did you see it? Or what it's sort of the same conversation we were having a few minutes ago, but I think if you want to get to the next level, you have to make yourself worthy of being at that level. And that's a fun exercise, actually, if you decide to package it that way. And we can all choose to write the story however we want. So I think you write it as, this is super exciting and I'm going to make myself that level broker and do everything and take advantage of the extra time. Perfect your marketing material. I did all that when I was new. I did a lot of door to door. I went to for sale by owner open houses. When things are slow and I have an open Sunday, I do that now because I remember, you look back at at what worked when you were new. And when you have that slow market or things aren't really rolling, do what worked when you were new.
I gotta say, this is
Wow.
what's amazing about what you just said is, we interview a lot of top brokers and all of them have different routes to success and different routes about how they handle a transaction. But almost every single one echoes exactly what you said in terms of what they do to achieve success and sort of,
Yeah.
understanding and basically making themselves smart, reading,
Mhm.
constantly reading. Esther Mueller used to say, read the paper every day, right? I think
Love it.
I forget who we're talking to,
Yeah.
going to open houses, right? Just industry knowledge, world knowledge, market knowledge. It all comes in handy. And it's like the
Yeah,
higher you get, the more you realize that's just absolutely the core. I love it.
absolutely.
Yeah, there's
Absolutely.
consensus. And you know what, Danielle, there's an energy to you. There's a motivation that is just contagious a little bit.
Thank you.
And
Thank
you
you.
know what? It reminded me of the Nike slogan for some reason. Just do it.
Yeah.
Just
Oh my
do it.
God.
Get out there and do it.
I am
Um
so telling my sons that is what I reminded you of. They won't believe me, so I
Hey,
might have to have you confirm it, but that is the first thing I'm doing when we're done.
I am honored. I am honored that you will bring myself up to your family, and
Oh
that's the
yeah.
best. That's the top thing I can do. This has been fantastic. Thank you for a little bit of your time and
Oh,
sharing
it's
your
my pleasure.
wisdom. And I hope agents really got a lot out of this. I certainly did. I know John did.
Thank you.
But thank you so much, Daniela Schlisser, top agent year over year. Brown Harris Stevens. Thank you so much. That is John
Thank
Walkup.
you.
I am Noah Rosenblatt. We're Urban Digs, and this has been Talking Manhattan. And we'll catch you next time.